If there is a trade that would help the defense, we're in position to make that trade. I want to remind everybody that I've said it earlier today, one of the great things about our trade that we had with Green Bay is that our tackle makes about $22 million a year, where he costs us $2 million. And so we're getting a 20-something million dollar a year player for $2 million right now. And he's playing about as well as anybody on defense. Why do I bring that up? That alone has increased our flexibility of being able to look at potential trades right now, whereas you might have had hand cramps before. So we're in position to look at a trade. That doesn't mean we're going to make one, but we certainly had in mind when we started this season that we were going to have ammo to be more flexible in terms of what we do with the roster as we move along this year and, of course, as we get into the next couple of years.
Jerry Jones with some powerful words to start this week's edition of Special Edition from the Star in Frisco in the Globe Life studios. The Cowboys fall to 2-3-1, and they fall on a last-second field goal to the Carolina Panthers, 30-27, the final score in Week 6. Alongside Barry Church and Nate Newton, I'm Kyle Youmans, and the question becomes, what is next for this Cowboys defense? Because we've talked about it nearly every week on this show. It has not lived up to the expectation. The Cowboys saying they have the ammo to do it. What's next, and what would even be the position of need that can fix this Cowboys team, Barry?
Kyle, well, I hate to say it, but each level of this defense, defensive line, linebackers, secondary, they all need, to step up their game. But for me, I'm going with the linebackers on this one. I know the trenches have, been pushed around, been bullied these past couple games. But when I look at these linebackers on tape, I'm not so sure what they're seeing out there. In the running game, they're over-pursuing, allowing a lot of cutback lanes for these running backs out there. When they fill the gaps, they're either missing tackles or allowing leaky yardages. And in coverage, pass coverage, they just look lost out there. So for me, the position of need has got to be that second level with the linebackers.
I want defensive line. It always going to be defensive line for me, and I want the interior of the defensive line. I either want a 3 technique or a 1 technique, and we need that to come now. If you can find a young 25 up-and-coming stud, go out and use that pick. But if not, let's just ride what we got and get better at what we do.
Okay, and that's a great point. Let's pretend they don't make a trade. They don't go and make that splash move. Barry, who needs to step up on this Cowboys defense right now in order to be better going into Week 7?
I hate to do this to my safety brethren, but I got to look at Donovan Wilson on this one. For me, this is a guy that we're accustomed these past couple of years for him coming downhill, exploding on wide receivers, coming downhill, blowing up guys in the running game, and we just haven't seen that. Now, some of that has to do with Matt Eberflus and putting his players in position to succeed out there. He has Donovan Wilson playing a lot of the deep coverages, which he's given up a lot of passing yardage and a lot of touchdowns on this defense so far this season. But we got to see the same Donald that we've seen from years past, that explosive guy that can make a game-changing play for this defense. And so far, we have not seen that.
For me, it's going to be Osa Odigizua. He has to play better. He has to slow down on some of his plays where he just rushed upfield. You cannot do that. You have to assess the situation and the formations and come a little bit more under control and make plays. We need for Osa to step it up, number 97.
Yeah, right now, currently 50th out of 122 defensive tackles rated by Pro Football Focus. There's a long way to go for that entire defensive line, and he's possibly coming off of his worst game of the year against Carolina. The Cowboys looking to turn it around this week against the Washington Commanders. When we come back, the NFC East remains wide open. Who is taking charge? And then right after this, Tommy Yarish joins the show with a little "Here we go" as he gets on the telestrator and breaks down that Cowboys film.
Special Edition, presented by AT&T, is brought to you by your North Texas Ford dealers. Ford is the best in Texas. Reliant, official energy provider of the Dallas Cowboys. Blockchain.com. Invest like your icons with Blockchain.com. And by AT&T. Connecting changes everything. This segment is brought to you by your North Texas Ford dealers. Ford is the best in Texas.
Welcome back to Special Edition. Tommy Harsh of DallasCowboys.com here with you from the Star in Frisco. Let's go ahead and break down some of this film ahead of Cowboys Commanders. Their first meeting this season. It's the third NFC East game this year for the Cowboys, and they're going to have their hands full, especially after a 30-27 loss last week against the Carolina Panthers. 3 keys to this game. We'll start with one. They straight up need to play more physical. Brian Schottenheimer said it earlier in the week that his team was not the more physical one on Sunday in Carolina. That needs to change against the Commanders, who are very good in the line of scrimmage on both sides of the football. Here's where things went a little bit wrong last week. Rico Dowdle, he said that the Cowboys defense needed to buckle up, and boy did they. They couldn't get buckled up, though, because he ran for over 180 yards rushing, and this is a why on these kinds of plays. So many things to look at here. You've got your 2 interior defensive tackles here that have been completely taken out of the play. Kenneth Murray is getting boxed out by the guard, and Rico Dowdle essentially has the Red Sea part in front of him, and look at all of that space that he's got up there. This is honestly pretty lucky for the Cowboys that it's not a touchdown, but Donovan Ezeraku slows him down a little bit, and Wanye Thomas ends up making the tackle. So that's the reason why Rico Dowdle was able to have such a successful day. The Cowboys just weren't physical enough. Rico had 57 yards before contact against the Cowboys last week. That cannot happen for a Washington Commanders rushing game that is 3rd best in the NFL. One of those reasons why their star quarterback, Jaden Daniels, in his 2nd year, hasn't gone exactly how they've wanted it to so far, dealing with some injuries and some turnovers early on, but this kid is still really special, and a big reason why is because of his legs. Here's a couple of weeks ago against the Chargers. When you start this play, the Chargers are going to run a stunt on the outside, on the left side of the screen there, and you can see, all right, we've got 2 guys kind of crashing in on him here, but Daniels is somehow going to be able to evade that. Guard does a good job of pushing one defender out of the way, and once he gets green grass, it's an easy first down pickup. If you thought that was it, let's go to last week against Chicago, or earlier this week, I should say, Monday Night Football. Here's Jaden Daniels against the Bears defense. I want you to watch right here the interior defensive lineman and Montez Sweat on the edge, because they're going to do a really good job of getting pressure when you start this play, and we're going to stop it right there. They've won their matchups. Montez Sweat has a free rushing lane, and Gervon Dexter coming in there to kind of close things up. Jaden Daniels looks like he's dead to rights, but he gets out of it, and now he's one-on-one with the linebacker, T.J. Edwards here, who does what he's supposed to do, right? That you're supposed to square up and kind of take away the rushing lane, but that also gives Daniels the edge around the outside, and he's able to scramble away for a first down. The Cowboys are going to have to be very disciplined. Daniels, top 5 in the NFL in quarterback rushing, 176 yards on 36 carries this season. All right, let's close it out with this. The Commanders' defense, one of the highest rates of playing nickel coverage, so the extra defensive back out on the field. You're going to see this nickel coverage from Carolina last week. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 defensive backs out on the field. Now, a couple of guys to watch here. The linebacker right here, who's kind of covering Jake Ferguson and George Pickens, who are lined up on the same side of the field. When you run this play, you're going to see Ferguson takes the linebacker out of the equation. And as soon as that happens, Dak Prescott is looking right at George Pickens, who has good cushion from the corner. You can see all the space here in between the two of them. And that's all that he needs. So there's this window right here with the linebacker's back turned for Dak Prescott to put this football, and then George Pickens does what he's done all year and does the rest. Catch and run, makes guys miss, and the Cowboys score a touchdown off of it. The Commanders' 2nd highest rate of nickel coverage on early downs, 84.9%. They're 4th overall in the NFL, 78.4% of nickel coverage. The good thing, Dak Prescott, a top 5 quarterback in the NFL against nickel coverage this year, 100 completions on 142 passing attempts for 985 yards and 7 touchdowns to go with 3 interceptions. All right, that's going to do it for this segment on Special Editions. When we come back, Kyle, Barry, and Nate breaking down the NFC East. It looks wide open right now.
This segment was brought to you by your North Texas Ford dealers. Ford is the best in Texas. This segment is brought to you by the NFL Fan of the Year, presented by Captain Morgan.
Guys, I've got some good news and some bad news. The bad news is the Cowboys have the toughest remaining schedule in the NFL, or at least according to PFSN 365. The good news is so does the rest of the NFC East. The Eagles, the Commanders, and the Giants, all with top 5 toughest schedules. This is based on the records from last year's finishing record. Back with Barry Church, Nate Newton, I'm Kyle Youmans. I think when you look across the board, it's very open in the NFC East. There's a lot that is still up for grabs. Do you feel like that's the case whenever the Eagles have stumbled, the Commanders have now stumbled, and then the Giants picking up steam, Cowboys trying to find their rhythm?
Yeah, without a doubt, Kyle. I mean, the NFC East is definitely up for grabs when you look at it. I mean, I don't know when the last time the NFC East had a back-to-back champion. You know, so for me,
2004.
2004. So it's been a long time since they had a back-to-back champion. When you look at the Eagles, yes, they've been successful in the past, but when you look at it, they have been up and down when you talk about offensively. They've been extremely stagnant. Defensively, they got exposed a little bit there last week as well. Washington, their best players are in and out of the lineup. Jaden Daniels, Scary Terry McLaurin. And when you look at the Giants, they're looking at 2 rookies right now to provide that juice and lead them to the promised land. So the NFC East is wide open. The Cowboys have just a good opportunity to win it as any other team in this division.
Fix your defense. If you have a whole lot to work on, it would be scary for the Cowboys. Just fix your defense. Stay in your gaps. Stay in your lanes. Be where you're supposed to be. Give your offense a chance because this thing is wide open. You see right now that the Philadelphia Eagles are stumbling. They have a new offensive coordinator, and things are not being coordinated very well. They got disgruntled players as usual. So in the Washington Redskins, like you said, in and out. They got to fix themselves. So the Giants, they still the Giants right now. So Cowboys, hey, keep playing.
Keep on going. And Cowboys Commanders this week, is this going to be the biggest or the best quarterback matchup in the NFC East? Not to throw shade on Jalen Hurts, but at least out of the quarterbacks that are playing right now, are they the best 2?
Yeah, these 2 guys, Jaden Daniels and Dak Prescott, in my opinion, are the best 2 quarterbacks in the division when you look at it. And Dak Prescott, to me, is the best by far. I mean, Jaden Daniels in and out of the lineup, like I just said on this earlier. But when you look at Dak Prescott, he's been the most consistent throughout this entire season. Passing the football, whatever the case may be, he's had the number 1 offense out there. So for me, these 2 are the 2 best in the division. But Dak is ahead of them all, in my opinion.
Dak is rolling. I agree with you 100%. And Jaden, man, this guy is still unknown. I mean, people think they got this guy packed down, but he is a special player.
Hey, Jaden Daniels missing weeks 3 and 4, but since returning, he has a 110 passer rating. That's up from 91 passer rating that he had in the previous 2 games prior to getting hurt. A matchup of former offensive rookie of the years at the quarterback position. Dak back in 2016 and Jaden Daniels last year. We'll talk more about those Commanders. Dan Quinn coming to town this week.
This segment was brought to you by the NFL Fan of the Year, presented by Captain Morgan. This segment is brought to you by the Salvation Army, doing the most good.
It's the kind of loss that pisses you off, and those can also, Scott, like they can have some real meaning if you lean into it. And trust me, we'll be leaning into it for sure. But we do have to turn the page in terms of the preparation heading into Dallas and all the unique challenges they have.
All right, all those Cowboys fans that have been saying you miss Dan Quinn, you wish he would come back to Dallas. Be careful what you wish for. He's coming back to Dallas as the head coach of the Washington Commanders here in Week 7 of the NFL season. He's had his own hurdles to overcome, just like the Dallas defense has. Washington coming in at 3-3 and a loss last week on Monday Night Football against the Chicago Bears. But Nate, I'll start with you on this one. What's been the toughest thing for Washington to overcome here in 2025?
Just the consistency on offense that they had last year with Scary Terry, they call him. The quarterback has been out. They got a new running back, and they had a few fumbles last week. So they just been inconsistent. If they get consistent with this quarterback, boy, it's going to be something to watch.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one, Nate. I believe there's 2 hurdles that the Commanders are dealing with right now. One is a slight injury bug, which you talk about Daniels being in and out of the lineup, Scary Terry being in and out of the lineup, but also defensively, they haven't been able to take the football away. And that's one of the marquee things of a Dan Quinn defense is being able to take the football away from the opposing offense. They only have 3 takeaways so far this season. That ranks, in the bottom half of the National Football League. So I think those are the 2 things that they have to try to get over in order to kind of right the ship over there in Washington.
it's really interesting when it comes to the defense. They still have 18 sacks, which is tops in the league. Their pressure rate is top 10 in the league, but their time to sack is bottom half of the league. And so it's kind of an interesting way of how they get there, whether it's the secondary, whether it's the scheme, whatever it is, they're still finding a way to make plays. Who is your player to watch, Nate, when it comes to that Washington Commanders team as a whole?
Number 94, Deron Payne. He's still a pain. He commands double teams. You don't have to double team him all the time, but he plays in and outside of the of our guards. He plays inside, outside eye. He's very powerful. He can make plays, keep him under control.
Yeah, with me, it's scary Terry McLaurin. Now, I know he's been out, these past 3 games with a quad injury or a hip injury, but when this guy's healthy and he's in the lineup, he's one of the top 10 receivers in the National Football League, especially when you got a guy like Jaden Daniels throwing you the football. He's a great deep threat, intermediate. He can be that kind of screen guy, as you see on the screen right now, as well as a security blanket for Jaden Daniels. But for me, when this guy's healthy, he is a guy that you have to know where he is at all times.
And he was limited this weekend back in practice for the Washington Commanders. You know he's going to be wanting to play this matchup against the Dallas Cowboys. He's scary Terry for a reason, but he wasn't the only Cowboys or Commanders receiver to be back in practice. CeeDee Lamb was back in practice for the Cowboys. What's the update on wide receiver 1 when we come back?
This segment was brought to you by the Salvation Army, doing the most good. Closed captioning is brought to you by the Texas Lottery. Dallas Cowboys scratch tickets from the Texas Lottery are here. Play today. And to watch more Dallas Cowboys content on your connected TV, download the Cowboys Now app on Amazon Fire, Roku, and Apple TV. Special edition presented by AT&T was brought to you by your North Texas Ford dealers. Ford is the best in Texas. Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. And by AT&T, connecting changes everything.
Who is it? Daddy?
No.
That's Daddy?
Wow.
I love it. That is not CeeDee Lamb, but this is CeeDee Lamb, and he's back at practice for the Dallas Cowboys this week. He missed the last 3 games officially, really 4 games since he was injured on the opening drive against the Chicago Bears in week 3. It's really a completely different offense when he's back in the fold, and he is back in the fold for the Dallas Cowboys this week. Wrapping things up on Special Edition with Barry Church and Nate Newton. I'm Kyle Youmans here from the Globe Life Studios. Nate, how big of an impact can CeeDee Lamb have on this offense, especially when you've got George Pickens playing well, Dak still playing at a high level? What can CeeDee Lamb bring?
He brings what you call a safety mover. When you can make the safety play to his side always, now the receivers become even bigger. Now our run game cannot be stopped. CeeDee is a safety mover.
Yeah, without a doubt, when you talk about the run game, I mean, you can't have, that safety in the box like Carolina had last week, that extra defender in there to stop, Javonte Williams and the crew with CeeDee Lamb out there, because you're going to leave him and George Pickens one-on-one. But also, I believe it'll open up things on third down, the money down. I mean, when you look at it, CeeDee Lamb is that security blanket for Dak Prescott. When things are, getting kind of chaotic on 3rd down and 8, 3rd down and 9, he's the guy that he looks for to kind of move the chains. He's that chain mover. So I believe that'll open up things for this offense 3rd down, and it'll leave George Pickens one-on-one on that backside, and we all know what he can do one-on-one coverage out there. So it'll open up this offense a lot.
So even with George Pickens stepping up the way that he has, you still anticipate him getting the targets that he needs and has earned over these last few weeks?
Yeah, early in the season, week 1, week 2, it was dominated by CeeDee Lamb when you look at the targets. Now that we've seen George Pickens be able to do what he's been able to do these past couple weeks, I think that target share will kind of not be 50-50, but maybe 60-40 to CeeDee Lamb instead of 80-20 like it was the first couple weeks.
Yeah, it was very heavy towards CeeDee Lamb. Not the case anymore. All right, Nate, who you got this week? Cowboys Commanders, 3:25 kickoff on Fox.
We'll be down with 1:50 left. We'll be down 6 points. Dak, I take him about 96 yards and win this thing by 1. Yeah,
96?
96, baby.
That would be a fun post-game show.
Would be.
If that would end up being the case. I'm all for it. Let's make it happen this week.
Yeah.
We also have a pregame show coming up this week, 2 o'clock from the field at AT&T Stadium. It's going to feel like a Cowboys homecoming with all sorts of alumni in the building. We're going to have special interviews throughout the day. Pregame Live getting started at 2 p.m. Central. We'll see you there.